1920, Walker Electric Ice Cream Delivery Truck. The charming old truck, with its bold lettering urging passers-by to eat a plate of ice cream every day, but be sure its delicious carries ice cream, rolls down the street, spreading joy. One can almost hear the laughter of children chasing after it, the promise of a sweet, cool treat breaking up the monotony of a warm afternoon. Vietnam, 2000, two cyclists ride past an American battlefield. Two cyclists pedal silently through what was once a place of unimaginable horror. The rusting field gun and tank stand as ghosts of war, remnants of a battle that claimed thousands of lives. Yet, life moves on. Where there was once destruction, there is now peace, and the wheels of the bicycles hum like a quiet tribute to resilience. 1911, the Battle of Ciudad Juarez. Gunfire echoed through the streets as the rebel forces of Francisco Madero clashed with federal troops loyal to Porfirio Diaz. For over 3 decades, Diaz had ruled with an iron fist, but now his regime was crumbling. The city trembled with both fear and hope. Hope for change, for a future where oppression might finally give way to freedom. 1985, Omaira Sanchez and the Armero tragedy. Trapped in the murky waters and debris, Omaira Sanchez's wide, dark eyes held an unbearable mixture of pain, innocence, and acceptance. The volcanic mud had buried her town, and now she lay, helpless, for days, comforted only by rescuers who could do little but offer words of love. Her tragic fate would become a haunting reminder of both the power of nature and human vulnerability. 1860, a lady in a litter, Brazil. The woman reclines in her luxurious litter, fanned by the humid Brazilian air, while 2 freed men bear her weight, their borrowed hats and clothing, carefully chosen for the stage photograph, tell a story, one not of servitude but of transition. Once enslaved, now free, they pose not just for the camera but for history itself. 1920s to 1930s, the Amasunzu hairstyle, Rwanda. Each intricate crest of the Amasunzu hairstyle told a story of pride, of identity, of readiness for marriage. The young women who wore it carried themselves with confidence, knowing that their hair signified beauty and cultural strength. The tradition, passed through generations, was more than fashion. It was a statement of heritage. 1950 to 1990, apartheid signs, South Africa. Cold, unfeeling signs loomed over public spaces, declaring who was white and who was non-white, enforcing an invisible but crushing barrier. The humiliation of being turned away, the anger of a mother explaining to her child why they couldn't enter. These were the daily wounds inflicted by apartheid. The signs may have been printed in simple black and white. 1977, Emperor Jean-Bedel Bokassa's coronation. Seated upon his absurdly ornate golden throne, Jean-Bedel Bokassa gazed down at his kingdom with an inflated sense of grandeur. The extravagance of his self-proclaimed empire stood in stark contrast to the struggles of his people. The weight of his crown was nothing compared to the suffering of those under his rule. 1870 to 1918, Africans in the German Imperial Army. Clad in military uniforms that were not their own, African soldiers marched under a foreign flag, fighting wars that were not theirs to begin with. Their loyalty was tested on battlefields where their courage was acknowledged, but their humanity often ignored. They were warriors, but also pawns in an empire's game. 1904, a slave father gazing at his daughter's severed hand and foot. Nsala's eyes, hollow with grief, stared at what remained of his daughter. She had been punished for his failure to meet a rubber quota, a brutal, incomprehensible crime. The severed hand and foot were not just a message to him, but to all who dared resist. The cruelty of the Belgian Congo was beyond words, but his sorrow spoke volumes. 1954, mine worker x-ray for diamond check. The miner stood rigid, his dignity stripped away as he was scanned for hidden diamonds. The harsh gaze of the radiologist was colder than the x-ray machine. These men spent their days clawing riches from the earth, treasures they would never own, wealth they would never touch. 1907, slave shackle removed by a British sailor. The iron shackle fell away, clattering to the floor, its echo a whisper of long years stolen. The sailor's hands trembled slightly. Was it from the weight of history or the silent gratitude in the freed man's eyes? Though one bond was broken, the scars of slavery would remain far longer. The legend of Holger Dansk. Beneath the stone, the warrior sleeps, waiting. The Danish legend tells of Holger Dansk, who will awaken when Denmark is in peril. His hand rests on his sword, his spirit unbroken through the centuries. In times of uncertainty, the people still whisper his name, hoping that someday the warrior will rise again. A real shrunken head, Ecuador. Once, this head belonged to a living soul, someone with dreams, fears, and a family. Now, its skin, shrunken and leathery, remains as a testament to the Jivaro people's ancient rituals. What did the eyes once see? What stories would the lips have told? Now, silent forever, it is a relic of a world long past. 1956. The USS Nautilus on the Hudson River. As the colossal submarine cruised past the Upper West Side, pedestrians stopped in their tracks, their eyes wide with amazement. A marvel of technology gliding through familiar waters. Something so ordinary, yet so extraordinary. For one brief moment, the city held its breath, watching history. Cabinet ministers lined up for execution after a coup d'etat in Liberia, 1980. On April 12, 1980, Samuel Doe led a military coup, killing President William R. Tolbert Jr. in the executive mansion. 26 of Tolbert's supporters were also killed in the fighting.